that basically what we're having right now, we're having a situation with Israel and with Iran. And I think it's important for you, it behooves you to understand what's happening. It behooves you to realize what it really means for your portfolio, for your livelihood, and all that. I'm going to bring out 5 points that I want to make. I want to make 5 points in this situation. And these points are very important. And the reason they're important is because they're going to explain to you what to do and how to manage your money, right? Now, I am not taking side as to who's right, who's wrong. That is not the point. We're here to manage money. We are here to manage the risk of your portfolio. And therefore, we need to understand what's really going on. And what is going on, obviously, you've heard the news that Israel is taking action against Iran. Okay. Now, is this a big surprise? Not really. I mean, you should have known that essentially what Israel is doing is methodologically just erasing all of the culprit. Started with, obviously, the attack in Israel. But, they've gone out after Hezbollah. They've gone, you see what happened with Syria, right, that fell. So this is a global issue. This is a geopolitical issue. But guess what? Guess who was surprised? Somehow, the stock market was surprised. The market was surprised, and whenever the market is surprised, the market does not like it, and the way it reacts negatively, right? The Dow is down about, if I'm looking at it right now, the Dow is down about 2%. The NASDAQ is down as well, about 1.38%. So markets are down right now. And this is very typical of what happens with markets. Markets do not like uncertainty. And this, my friends, this black swan is uncertainty. This black swan is really scaring a few people because they say, oh my God, what do you mean? What happened? And that, I think, is something that you need to understand in order for you to make money in the stock market, is that you need to look for black swan. This is a black swan, according to the market. A black swan is an event that no one is expecting, and therefore they're surprised, and therefore they don't like it, and they discount it. So right now, the market is discounting this event. I'm going to show you 5 reasons for you to understand what is going on and how you could take advantage. I am not talking to myself. I'm talking to 24 people right now. 24 people just joined, and I'm going to explain to you what is going on and 5 points on how to manage the portfolio. What do you think we can do here? The first thing you need to understand, hi Claudia, the first thing that you need to know is this is a black swan. A black swan is an event that no one has expected. Now, granted, some people might have seen going. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you are always notified whenever I come up with my new ideas and some new thoughts about the stock market, jobs and things like that. So what's going on right now is obviously Israel has attacked Iran. Well, you've heard the news, you've seen it all over. They're telling you, this is who's winning, who's losing, how many missiles. What you need to understand are those 5 major points. The first one is this is war, okay? This is not unusual. This is not unexpected. As you could see, Israel has been going little by little. They've been going through all of the culprit that have been bothering them for a while. We're talking Hezbollah, we're talking Syria, and now they're literally going in a big way against Iran. Now, this should be a lesson. That should be a lesson to the U.S. Why? Well, because right now when Trump says, you know what, we are Fortress America, we're indestructible, well, I beg to differ. Be careful, right? Be careful, because the U.S. hasn't fought a war in a long time. And right now, what we're thinking is, well, you got the U.S. and then you got China and you got Taiwan. That's the only thing that Taiwan hasn't exploded yet. But be careful. This could happen. This is not an impossibility. Hey, Bayou, how you doing? This is not an impossibility. It is not impossible for the U.S. and China to get into some sort of a spat, especially as the U.S. is pressuring China and coercing China into, how are you? I'm doing pretty good, Bayou. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to like it. This is important. One of my 5 points I want to make to you today. This should be very interesting for you. I'm not giving you the blow by blow as, how many missiles and what's going on. No, I am really explaining to you the analysis of it, okay? I am good, thank you very much. So the first thing you need to know is this is a war. This was a pressure cooker. This was bound to happen, you know? I mean, Israel has been systematically, and don't forget, they're attacking. These people are no fools. They know who they have against, right? Iran supposedly has the weapons, and they're going to defend themselves, and they're going to do all kinds. But really, what can they really do? Right now, it would appear that Israel has sent about 200 aircraft and 330 ammunition, basically missiles. A lot of missiles have been landing on Iran, and Iran obviously is going to respond. But don't forget, Israel has this dome that's going to be protective of them. But basically, what this is going to do to the stock market, first of all, the market is down, okay? And for obvious reason, because the market hates uncertainty. And this, my friend, is uncertainty. Now, that's the first thing that they're doing. The second thing that I think is going on is that you're not going to see any relief from the Fed and inflation. The Fed is definitely not going to lower rates. Why? Well, because oil went up 7 to 8%. And this could add, if it goes on, this could add 0.5% in terms of the CPI. Remember, anytime the oil prices go up by a lot, right now I'm in the US. I was in Europe last week. I travel a lot trying to give you ideas on how to manage your money. So right now, do not expect any rate decrease in the US next week when the Fed meet, because they're going to say, one, I don't know what is going to happen to the tariffs, my friend. I don't know what the tariffs is. You know, you're fighting with 100 countries in order for you to improve your tariff situation and reduce your the situation happening with the trade deficit. But unfortunately, that is not going to happen right now because tariffs are inflationary. We don't have a deal with anyone, right? We don't have a deal with anyone in terms. Well, I'm sorry, you have a deal with the UK, with England, right? But maybe some deal with China, but nothing has been written down. So, and don't forget, the US gave itself 3 months to get this done since May 9, May, June, July, August. On August 9th, do you really think the US is going to get together and agree with 90 different type of countries, almost 100 countries? I don't think so. So you're not going to see any relief from rates there. And on top of that, now with oil going up, oil is at, Brent is about, what is it, $77? So Brent is going up. So that's inflationary because that's going to impact the CPI. So the Fed is definitely not going to lower rates. Okay. I don't care how much Trump wants to get rid of power, which he really can't. The guy's here another year. And frankly, the Fed may have a point here that inflation is not totally under control. Yes, I know the CPI is low, is approaching the 2% target rate, but be careful that this rate that we're talking about, this CPI, is really potential. Some people are actually an outdated measure. This CPI has been changing since the 1980s, 1990s in order to reflect what's going on in the market. But this might not actually reflect the actual inflation that people are seeing every day in the US. No, I mean, inflation is a lot more complicated than that. Now, if you to look at trueflation, look at trueflation, type it, see what's going on there. And my friends, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. My friends, I will tell you that the trueflation is saying, yeah, we were going down, but it's a bit of an uptick in inflation in the US. And trueflation uses like millions of points of points in order to measure whether or not we have inflation or not. So that is something that you need to worry about. That's the first thing. The second thing is the fact that you have a pressure cooker. Now, you've got a bunch of other pressure cookers, right? You have Taiwan, China, the US. China is looking at Taiwan and saying, you know what? I don't like these guys. US say, don't you dare. But be careful. Look what's happening with Iran right now. I don't think that they're winning anything right now. They're getting kicked by about 200 aircrafts and 330 ammunition, basically missiles. Be aware that right now China, right, is able to produce a tremendous amount of weapons, tremendous amount of missiles. The US maybe has enough missiles for 6 to 7 days. And missiles, right? It's not that easy to produce. You need rare minerals that actually come from China. Okay, so the situation globally, geopolitical situation, is getting more complicated. The other thing that I want to tell you, that this is a black swan. No one expected this, maybe except the Israeli. Although, if you were to analyze and look at my channel, you would realize that things are a little bit more complicated than that. And this was something that was cooking for a while and was bound to happen. And Israel just doesn't go willy-nilly in a country. They planned it, they knew what they were doing, and they're achieving their goals, and they've been building up for it. The same way China right now is building up a tremendous amount of weaponry. Now, I know that Trump likes to say that the US is very powerful, and I don't doubt it. But it's not going to be a walk in the park if you start messing around with China, because essentially you've got three things going on right now. You had the Ukraine and Russia. Okay, that was one thing that was cooking, and is nowhere near going to be resolved. And then you have the Taiwan thing, but nothing was really going on. There's been some threats here and there, but nothing really happening. And now, obviously, we have this thing with Iran and Israel. Now, this time, this is serious, right? Israel has been methodically going after all of its enemies for rightful or wrongful reason. The point, they've been doing it. And so far, they've been doing a pretty good job. I mean, Hezbollah is gone. Syria is gone. And now they're going after Iran. And you say, oh my God, what are you doing? Now, you have to keep in mind that Iran, yeah, they could do lots of damage here and there, but are they really prepared to fight against Israel? And this is a point that is very important for you to understand, because this is a country that's been fighting for a while, the same way Russia has been fighting for a while. So they've geared up for war. Is the US ready for war with anyone? We shall find out. Hopefully we don't find out. The point is, what do you do? Well, right now, I will tell you that you are not going to see any relief from the Fed. So, and inflation is not going away anytime soon. Inflation, especially when you see what's happening to oil prices, is going to be going up. And the tariff situation in the US is not the greatest thing to have right now, right? The tariffs are inflationary. I hate to say it, prices are going to go up. Now, of course, what you hear is from some of the people in the US government is that, no, I mean, the producers are going to take in the loss, right? The increase in the cost that you're seeing because of the tariffs, they're not going to impact the people. It's going to impact the others. I am not so sure about that. I will tell you, I am not so sure that they're going to take it in the chin, the producers, and so that the American people are not going to be impacted by inflation. They will be impacting inflation, and especially now, if this thing is going to last. Now, I will tell you, I believe that this thing with Iran is not going to be over like I think it was a year ago when they sent a bunch of missiles. They did back and forth, and they said, okay, it's fine. You sent your missile, I sent my drones. It's over. This is not over. This is going to continue for a while. Why? Because Israel has no one else to fight for. Now, what's driving them? Could it be that Netanyahu needs to stay in power, and the more he fights, the more popular he gets, and the more people are going to react, and the more he has something to do? And yes, and frankly, you think they did it on their own, according to Israel and the US? No, we have nothing to do with it. Okay, fine. But it's hard to believe. You know, yesterday, Trump basically said, hey, everyone, better hide the hatchets. Be careful, get out of the country, something is happening. So they were told, so the US was told this was going to happen. Now, how do you manage a portfolio in this situation? That is the reason why, my friends, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, in case I haven't said it, and like this video. You need to understand that these kind of events needs to be understood in their overall understanding of what's really happening, right? And on one end, you've got politically driven individuals, right? Netanyahu obviously was on his way out. Now he's on his way back in, because obviously somebody's attacking his country and he's got to defend it, rightfully or wrongfully. There's something that needs to happen. But how do you manage a portfolio? That's a reason why I tell my subscribers, do not look for the next NVIDIA. What you should be focusing on, you should be focusing on understanding the risk of your portfolio, and you should be able to manage on the way down. You make a lot more money. You make a lot more money by looking at the way down of your portfolio, by buying puts and going short or whatever you want to do. That is the way that you manage a portfolio, because you manage for the riskiness of the portfolio. And that is something that is not very understood by everyone. What do you mean? What do you mean by managing for the downside? Well, you know, right now, in fact, I think I asked several of my subscribers to do that, especially on my Patreon channel. You make more money on the way down than on the way up. Do you know how much money did Spitznagel and his hedge fund made during the COVID crisis? They made 4,000%. And right now I'm telling you, people, investors are making huge amount of money, right? If you were looking for black swan, this is what this channel is about. Black swan, meaning we're looking for events that are going to bring the portfolio down. No, I want you to tell me what the next Nvidia is. No, that is not how you make money. Because first of all, if you have Nvidia, let's say you have Nvidia, and this is the reason why 80% of the portfolio managers do not beat the market. If you had that many good names, and let's say you pick Nvidia and you're doing very well and Nvidia goes up and up and up, it's going to take a larger and larger chunk of your portfolio. In order for you to manage your portfolio, you cannot just have one stock, because you're exposed to this, right? The market is down a lot. Now, interesting enough, when I look at my trusted chart, Nvidia is 2%, down 2% today. You know, Tesla is up 2.5%, but then again, Tesla has been beaten down quite a bit. You need to focus on risk. You need to understand risk, because that, first of all, you protect what you have, and two, you could make a lot of money, especially when everybody is long. Now, I know everyone is saying right now, oh, look, the market in the US is up. Well, hold on. That is not true, first of all. They're doing much better, much better in Germany. They're doing much better in Italy and in Europe in terms of stock market performance. We are not doing well in the US. Why? Because of the tariffs. Does this mean it's going to continue? Well, be careful, because there's something very underlying. There's a capital flight. There's a capital flight out of the US as well. And that is problematic. There was a bit of an auction with the Treasury that went more or less okay, but the US still need to come up with $9 trillion. Now, supposedly the US is with Israel and they're talking, and there's some good feelings back and forth there. But is the US really controlling Israel? I don't think so. I mean, the problem with Trump, he's been saying so many things that really, is he really making an impact? Who knows? So these are my 5 points. First of all, this was a pressure cooker with Israel. It was bound to happen. There's another pressure cooker, you know, Taiwan and China. Oh yeah, but China would never dare invade Taiwan because the US would get in there. Yeah, and then what? You only have 1 week worth of missiles. What are you going to do? Be careful. Do not poke that bear. Do not poke that bear, because you might be surprised. 2, there's not going to be any relief on inflation right now, because oil prices are going to go up, and they are going up already, and that's going to be a problem, right? You don't want that to happen, but that's happening right now. So the Fed is not going to lower rates, which means the stock market is not going to perform that well on that amount of duress. 3, Iran right now, I hate to say it, yeah, I know they sent 100 drones, but they're no match for Israel. Okay, Israel has been prepared for that. Be careful, because is the US prepared to fight any kind of war? When was the last time the US won any kind of war? World War II? That's it. Anything about that, the US is spending a lot of money on defense, which pissed off Elon Musk recently, because he was trying to save some money, and unfortunately now we're spending more money. Is that going to make you safer? We shall see, but I'm not so sure. And finally, this is a black swan event. What is a black swan event? A black swan event is an event that no one saw coming. The market definitely didn't see it coming. You'd be surprised. but they didn't see it coming. The same way it's probably not seeing coming China, invading Taiwan. If you're China right now, wouldn't that be a good time to get into Taiwan? But why would you do that? Well, because you would piss off your best customer, the U.S. Is it really a good best customer for the U.S.? If you were to look at a chart, how many exports to the U.S. it's been going down. It is still significant, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they don't want the U.S., but they've been slowly and surely reducing their reliance on the U.S. So you've got lots of geopolitical issues from all over the place. And these, my friends, might have an impact ultimately in terms of how this all gets resolved. And this, you may not like how this gets resolved. Why? Because the last time we were in a situation like that, World War II, what happened? The U.S. won, and the U.S. said, I am now Fortress America. I am now going to impose my currency on all of you. And the U.S. had no debt, and everyone said, okay, and the U.K. lost out. But do you really think that the U.S. in that same situation today, right? The U.S. has now 37 trillion worth of debt. Now, obviously, this is not good for the U.S., this thing with Iran and Israel. Why? Well, because it's not going to lower rates anytime soon. And don't forget, all that debt that we're seeing, that 37 trillion, was financed when rates were very low. But now the concern is that rates are going to remain and even go higher if we have too much inflation. How is that going to help anyone? How is that going to help the 37 trillion? So the US is fighting, quote unquote, but with a hand behind its back because of the amount of debt. And look what's happening with Elon Musk, right? He wanted to save money and they told him, go away because you're bothering and you're scaring the kids with Doge. And I know he was not supposed to stay long, and they're going to do something to be able to save that money. But how much money was really saved? Not that much money. And that is because within the US administration, there are two camps fighting it out. You've got the Elon Musk, well, not any longer, but you've got Vance on one side, I guess a voice of reason. I mean, he does probably want to be president one day. And the other end, what do you have? Well, you've got, Pete Navarro, right? The guy is after China, wants to squeeze it, wants to reduce the amount of trade deficit that is happening in the US. If you have too much trade deficit, it's not good. You don't want trade deficit and fiscal deficit. The US has both. And what do you think? I mean, if I'm telling you this, right, from my backyard, why do you think that it's going to be a problem at some point? Why do you think the money is leaving the US and going into Europe? Is it because of the tariffs? Well, I guess there was another way of trying to reduce your trade deficit, but Trump doesn't have that kind of time. Trump needs to do it very quickly. And right now, is he in control of everything? Yeah, he's got the border, quote unquote, but there's like 11 million illegals in this country. They're all, I think they're targeting 4,000 people a day, but they're only getting 300 to 400 people a day. So that's okay, but it's not really working that well, right? So what do you think happens behind closed doors? What do you think happens behind closed doors when they talk about what is it that they want to do? They say, well, we promised the people we're going to go and take care of the immigration. But we're doing it. Are you taking care of it? Are you really removing that many people? I know they're showing you a few people here and there, but frankly, is that really happening fast enough? Okay. Then they said that they're going to lower taxes, and that's what they're working on. If that doesn't work, it's going to be a big disappointment, right? And right now, a few Democratic senators that just don't like it. They just don't like it. They just listen. You keep raising the debt ceiling. That's not going to work. Hopefully, they get it done. We shall see. But then the tariffs. You get probably bigger bang for the bucks on the tariffs. That's really pissing people off. That's really upsetting a lot of people. And frankly, the idea is to say that, and it's true, if the tariff holds the way they are, over the next 10 years, you're talking about trillions of dollars coming in. But that assumes that these people want to buy from the US. Is this really going to happen? Keep in mind, people, that 10% of the landmass in Asia has 50% of the world population. They could do business with each other and get away with it. They could do business with each other and make enough money that they don't need the US. So what you're seeing is geopolitical issues intertwining with the market. And that is a problem. That is a problem because you don't know where it's going to end. And this is what this channel is about. This channel is about looking for black swan, looking for events that will have material effects. I mean, essentially, there's no such thing as a black swan, right? So these are things that you say, well, don't exist, and yet they do exist. How do you plan for something like that? How do you plan for something that you don't know is going to happen? You know, I guess COVID was a black swan, and nobody saw that one coming, except, obviously, Spitznagel and his hedge fund, along with Taleb Nassim, who wrote a book about the black swan. And guess what? He was right. And they made 4,000%. How did they do it? Well, you know, they basically all the time looking for, like I do in this channel, looking for problems that could impact the portfolio, that could impact your livelihood, and you need to understand it. Do not rely too much on everyone telling you what is happening. Okay, fine, you may not be there on the fight. You might not see the 300 missiles falling on Iran, right? So they're telling you this is what's happening. What you need to know is, what does it mean? What does it mean for the future? And frankly, a lot of people don't want to talk about it because that is disturbing. That might upset the people watching the news. If you're going to tell them that basically, you know what, this war with Iran is going to last for a long time, and ultimately Israel may have to use the atomic bomb, well, nobody wants to hear that. Okay? They want to see the news, they want to see what's happening. And obviously, whenever somebody's watching a program like that, they want to know, well, which side are you on? Are you for or against Israel, right? And then your mind, and of course, obviously, if you're watching one particular type of news, they're going to tell you Israel is right. And if you're watching another type of news, they're going to tell you Israel is wrong. And then you're basically told what you want to hear. This is not what this channel is about. This channel is not about telling you what you want to hear. This channel, the Black Swan, and don't forget to subscribe, I am here to explain to you what is going on and what it's going to mean. Obviously, I don't know what's going to happen next, right? But you need to understand what it means and the implication. For example, I mean, the obvious one is next week the Fed is going to meet and they're going to decide whether or not they are going to want to raise rates or lower rates. They're not going to do anything now. Never mind that Fed Chair Powell really is not liked by Trump, who keeps on wanting him to lower the rates because he's saying, look, there's no inflation. Look at the numbers. And he's right. When you look at the CPI is under control. But what the Fed is going to tell you is, how do I know the tariffs impact? Show me the tariff. We don't know what the tariffs impact because we do not have a deal. We do not have a deal with none of these countries. So we don't know what the impact is going to be on inflation. But today, I mean, oil is up. Don't forget, the Iranian could try to block the Strait of Hormuz, right, where all of those ships are going. So that could impact oil prices even more. So lots of issues there, lots of issues in the market, lots of issues in the world, and you need to understand how to manage your portfolio. You need to manage your portfolio accordingly. The Fed is not going to lower rates this next week. That is for sure. Therefore, that means that the stock market is definitely not going to rebound next week. Why? Because this thing with Israel and Iran is a long haul, right? They went in first with Hezbollah, right? And then they went with the Gaza business. There's nothing to do there anymore. Everything is destroyed, right? So what is there? Well, you got to take care of the Iranian. I know. That's crazy. Well, maybe not that crazy. They've been there for a while. They know exactly what they have. They sent about 330 missiles, and Iran responded with 100 drones. Do you think that Iran has the military capabilities to attack? If they did, Israel would not have attacked to begin with. Right? You attack when you know you have the hedge. They're not just trying things out. Remember what they did with the blowing of the cell phones with Hezbollah? I mean, this thing was planned for months and years. And that kind of technology takes years to do. So that tells you. So as a portfolio manager of your own money, you need to make sure you always make sure you look for the downsides. The downside of your portfolio is where it's at. This is where you make money. Do not look for the next NVIDIA. Why? Because let's say even if you find the next NVIDIA, your stock is going to go up and it's going to take a larger share of your portfolio. And then what happens when NVIDIA is 90% of your portfolio? You're going to keep holding it? You maybe as a single, but as a portfolio manager, you're going to go into your management committee, and I've been in some of those, and they're going to tell you, listen, we cannot have that much risk on one stock, Therefore, you need to get rid of the stock. Therefore, you need to learn how to manage risk. That is the most important thing you need to do. Manage the risk of your portfolio. And right now, with Israel fighting it out with Iran, it becomes even more complicated. Why? Well, first of all, you need to understand, even though you might like the US, you might want to invest in the US, a lot of money is leaving the US. Money is leaving the US into Europe. Look at the amount of money is being made in Germany right now in the stock market. In Italy, in Spain, it's 10% plus. In the US so far this year, 1% maybe this year. I know the market is back up in the US, but that business is done with. Now, of course, you might want to blame Trump and it's his fault. Don't blame the guy. This was bound to happen regardless. You could not have such a huge trade deficit for so long. You could not have such a huge amount of debt, 37%, $37 trillion. That's too much money. And that is not going to help the US. So how is this going to resolve? What's going to happen in the end, right? Who's going to win? Well, no one wins in a war, right? Because you're attacking Iran. Iran's going to block this of Hormuz. You may have some attacks here and there. They're going to see, well, the U.S. was involved, so let's attack the U.S. Let's bring the U.S. into the fray. Now, don't forget, Russia does not particularly like what's happening to Iran. So if the U.S. gets into it, you know what I mean? It gets very convoluted. So now, of course, unfortunately, if you're a student of history, you need to understand that once in a while there's a need for bloodletting. You need to bleed a little bit to restart anew. Is this where we are now? No, because Trump, unfortunately, the way he's managing the relationship and the way he's managing the global situation is via coercion. He's coercing Asia, China, into doing what he wants them to do. Yes, they have a deal. I'm not saying they don't have a deal and nothing is signed, but it's really a 6-month deal. Don't forget, the US wants that rare minerals and they have to get it from China. And why, if you're China, why would you want to give the US rare minerals where they could really build weapons with it? I know. And the thing is, the US needs China because 90% of it comes from China. Why? Because they've developed their industrial capabilities, not just for pharmaceutical items and not for sneaker shoes, but also for that rare minerals. So this whole thing at the end of the day, driven by 5 elements. 1, we have a black swan. 2, Iran is no match for Israel, but be careful, the US might not be matched for China. The same way Ukraine is no match for Russia. Russia was supposed to go away, right? They don't know what they're doing. They don't have enough armies. They're still around. 3, this is a pressure cooker. These are the things that will happen after a while. And another pressure cooker that you haven't seen is with Taiwan. 4, inflation is not going anywhere away anytime soon. So don't expect the Fed to come in and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to lower the rates. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. It helps keep the lights on, and you will be rewarded because I will explain to you what is going on. And 5, obviously, this is a war. This is like the Ukraine slash Russia kind of war. It's going to be something that's going to last. It's going to go on and on. This is not over tomorrow. Definitely not. Why? Well, because Israel needs to make a point, and it needs, maybe they're looking for regime change in Iran. And if you're in Iran right now and your people are getting killed, and and maybe the moderates go into action, maybe there's a chance of change of power in Iran and makes a big mess over there, and then finally that makes it worthwhile. But this is not going to happen in 2 days. This could take a while. But Israel is ready for it, so be careful. This could last long. So then you're going to have Iran, Israel fighting it out. Then you're going to have Ukraine and Russia fighting it out. All you need is Taiwan, and then boom, you got a trifecta. Do you think that Trump is up for this task? Do you think the U.S. can say, okay, I'm the big bad one, stop fighting? Obviously, Israel is not listening to the U.S. if they told them not to do anything. So we're entering a very, very, very precautious period in world organization. Why? Because frankly, the U.S. is not the power it used to be. Because if I know that, I bet you that other countries know it, and China knows it, and Trump might be boasting a bit about letting go of foreign students and picking on a few illegals there and there. But when it comes to China, Israel, does the U.S. has any pull? We shall find out. See how long this thing with Israel goes. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to like what you see. I will be back. I will tell you what's going on. Every day I come up with new ideas, new videos, and I put them all on my Patreon channel. You need to know what's going on. You need to analyze the situation. That is very important.